of Culture Chat. We are joined today by the lovely Robbie Cole, who is an executive coach focused on in the public sector with school administrators, formerly a principal, and many other areas in school administration, supporting our much needed schools. Thank you for all the work that you do in the public sector, because certainly those folks need it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And kind of a new horizon to use coaches in the education sector, because we've really, I would say, have hung on to experts in the field. They retire and then they come back and they support administrators versus this like actual coaching and using those resources throughout their career.
Yeah, nice. So what are you seeing with the folks that you coach? What are some of the common themes?
Yeah, so I coach using the Gales, which are gremlins, that little voice inside of our head that tells us we're just not quite enough. Assumptions. It happened once, it's going to happen again, and it will keep on happening.
Always. It's who I am.
No way. Yeah. Interpretations, putting our own lens on why things are happening and labeling it, even if we don't know the whole story. And then those limiting beliefs that we've collected throughout our lifetime and that we just keep putting in our bag and bringing them up when it feels right. And so those limiting beliefs, I'd say I see most of all, the excuse of why we can't do something or why things aren't happening, and really working and identifying that it is a limiting belief and working around it.
Yeah, well, I certainly don't have any of those. No, none of that here. No voice in my head. Limiting beliefs, I mean, that actually is an interesting one too, especially for all of us who work for ourselves now. And that's a big one, I think, to overcome too as you venture out on your own. How are you supporting folks, especially with that last one? It's like the reframe. It's the what's going well, what could be, I don't know, share a little bit more about that.
Yeah, well, I think, I always say you got to name it to tame it. And so if you can name it and identify the limiting belief, you're much more likely to be able to tame it down and see that it's just a limiting belief that's holding us back. And I see with clients, once we start naming them, as time goes on, they're able to name them. Oh, yeah. There's a limiting belief. And seeing how they come up, because, right, we all have them. And especially going out on my own, I'll tell you, I have so many limiting beliefs around how I work and how I operate that it's, I name it and tame it and try to work around it. And I mean, that's easier said than done, right? Like,
sure.
Okay, I'm going to name it and it's going to go away. Yeah. Way more work than that, but
the first step in all of it is the self-awareness, right? Know it.
You just gotta recognize it. And I think what's interesting about limiting beliefs is, and we talked about solopreneurs, or like people like ourselves. Mm-hmm. But I think when you're in the work environment, and now you have people when you're raising your hand to give an idea, and maybe it's getting shot down, or you have a leader who probably has their own insecurities and so uses you as their stepping stone to make themselves feel better, sort of fosters those things even worse. I can't imagine, I've never worked in public education, but just the structure of it, having gone through school in it, I think that there's, sometimes these external forces that are actually exacerbating. Is that the word I want to use? That are feeding into it. What do you recommend in those situations for people, as they know that they have, maybe they are even self-aware, and then it's just fed, like it's just fed to make them believe that that's actually true.
Yeah, Andy, such a good point, because there are the stories we tell ourselves that we continue to feed. I think the one in public education that I see the most is we don't have enough. Just over and over.
Scarcity.
If we just had more resources, if we had more of this, and this like scarcity mindset that it perpetuates this ongoing, we can't do it because we don't have enough. And like, when will it be enough?
Never have enough. If that's the mindset, it's never enough, right? And that's true everywhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing because if you were to actually look at, this is going to be a crazy comparison, I think, but if you were to look at public schools and resources, I think we all know this thing. We all continuously say they don't have enough, and teachers are spending their personal money to do things for their
26
classrooms.
kids in a class.
But when you take that in comparison to maybe a third world country, where and education is still happening, and the minimalistic nature of what they have in those spaces, they don't think they have enough. They're just glad they have a building. They're glad kids got to school, Yeah. So it's an interesting sort of, sometimes I think, perspective as well, right? We should have more. We're a richer country. We should be able to do those things, but also, how are we getting in our own way? Because there are you do have some sort of resource, and how do you leverage that better, right?
Yeah. Well, and I've been to Rwanda twice to train teachers.
Okay.
So, I mean, like,
That's
so on point, because when we go and tour schools the first couple days. Like, it's a 2-week trip. We tour schools, and then they have this model where basically we train mentor teachers, and then the mentor teachers go and into schools and do the work. But the shocking thing is, we have all of these resources, and how we teach is so resource heavy. And you go into a school in a developing country like Rwanda, which their education system is pretty young just because of the genocide that happened.
Yeah.
They have pens, and they have paper, and they have chalkboards. So then it's like, we have to stop ourselves, like, okay, you can only teach with pens, paper, and chalkboard.
Yeah.
What are you going to teach?
Yeah.
And
every kid doesn't have their own book.
Yes.
Every kid doesn't have a computer.
Yeah. And you have 50 to 75 kids in a room.
Yeah.
And they're not eating lunch. There is no free lunch, free breakfast in there, right? Like, and so this mindset of we need more, it's something that we've told ourselves, and we've told it to ourselves for a long, long time. Parents know it, the community knows it, and yet it's stopping us from seeing all the opportunities in order to do it differently. Because if we had figured out education, we'd be doing it.
Right.
It's not that we need different resources. I believe we need to bring down the stress on the brain in order to get to that creativity to look at it in a different way.
Totally agree. And it kind of feeds into, as Americans, we are natural victims, or we're waiting to be victimized, right? Yeah. And that's how we sort of present, I think, in a lot of spaces. It doesn't mean that doesn't mean that victimization isn't going on, but it means, are you sitting in a space where you're saying, I can't because I am a woman. I can't, I could never do this thing because I'm black. It's not that there aren't these true barriers, right? So when we talk about resources, it's not that there aren't these true sort of barriers, but to your point, if we step out of a, oh, woe is me kind of mentality and get ourselves thinking in gratitude, thank God we've got books.
Yeah.
Thank God we've got colored pencils. Thank God we've got, there are resources. How do we think about it differently?
Yeah. Devices in every kid's hand. I mean, we're in a little different space. Well, and one of the tools that I use in coaching is the Energy Leadership Index, which goes through the 7 levels, right? Level 1, you're victim. And how do you get up to that level 5 of opportunity, right? Because it's the lens that we wear. Are we victim to what's happening to us, or is this an opportunity to come up with a different answer? And so much of the time it's, well, this is happening to me. I can't change anything. And then, you go through all those levels, and it's hard to see the opportunities when you're sitting in that victim zone.
Well, like you said before, you're bringing all that baggage. So this is something that we're taught at a pretty young age. It is so embedded in our culture, including the more is better. We need more. So that's a very easy narrative for why we can't do or don't do what we think we need to do, or what we know is the right thing to do, or look at it in another way, whether it's an actual opportunity or having gratitude about what we do have.
Yeah,
so
I
so
actually
much of it.
recently read a great quote saying from Adam Grant. You know, he's the whole guy about all of your habits and what we do, and basically he was saying that like learning and reading can actually be a form of procrastination, because it's this idea of like, well, I need to know more before I start. I need to have more education before I get that job.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, this is the zone I sit in on starting my own business. Well, if I just had a couple more credentials.
Yeah. No, nobody feels that here. I just need to read one more book. Let me add some more. I mean, this is so perfect, Robbie, because, well, there's 2 reasons why this is perfect. Number 1, I have said I hate learning out loud to people. And now it is a thing, because that's clearly not true, right? I love to learn. I love to know new things. What I don't love is reading and the act of like having to be in a classroom and that kind of like formal learning. I love new ideas. You
actually love reading. It's not that. It's you don't like the formalization of like, let me get in and do a curriculum and a program. Yeah.
Maybe, I mean, I'm super excited. I loved my coaching curriculum. I love doing all that because, again, it's a little bit more experiential and very community-based also. But the other thing, to your point, like when I first started, everybody was sending me like books and this and this and that and that. And it was like information overload. And, and it gets very easy to give yourself that limiting talk, that limiting belief of like, well, I have to read all these. I must be able to refer every different type of book and every research. That's part of being a coach. You have to refer everything that's appropriate for blah, 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 blah. And it just goes on and on and on. And I don't know how I was able to stop it, but it's like, I set a goal, actually. I'm going to read 4 books a year or whatever, 1 a month, and 3 articles here and blah, 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 blah. So I set a goal to make it more obtainable that felt comfortable to me. But I can totally see how that is what Adam Grant says, a form of procrastination, because you're like, I need more info. I need to know all these things.
We do that as a culture, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
I think
it's a whole business, right? I mean, all these certifications and things are a business.
I think, not to go into politics, but I think Kamala Harris was actually talking about this the other day, where she was like, we've created such a structure here that it's like, for the most part, put yourself in debt so that you can have an opportunity to get this job that may or may not return on investment, just depending on what the thing is. And we need a new avenue to start to say, college is not the determining factor at whether or not you can execute or know a skill,
have a successful,
or be good at
satisfying life. Yeah.
Right. There is a multitude of ways in which you can be educated and learn, and it doesn't have to be in this particular setting. But we come from a generation of, well, of course you had to go to college. And like, I came out of healthcare, and healthcare was like, well, you certainly can't get a management position unless you have a master's degree. So now you're like running to get the master's degree. And it's like, yeah, but you probably need that certificate. You need to be certified in project management or change management or whatever. And so now you're like, how many things do I actually have to do? Because I can't actually go and just educate myself. I have to go through the governing board that has said you're educated enough to do this. It's a terrible structure. No, it's a terrible structure because then, like me, I'm like, well, no one's gonna want to listen to me if I don't have a if I don't have a this, no one's gonna care.
Oh wait, a limiting belief that we have credentials in order to do a job.
We've named it. Meanwhile, we all have credentials behind our name that we most certainly promote and put out there.
Well, can I say, I think that probably sets us apart a bit because we're like, oh, limiting belief? Okay, I'm going to overcome that. Like we just start to try and go like Superwoman, and we wonder why we're constantly stressed. And now I don't even think my brain quite works right because it's just always on overload of all the things that I have to learn and accomplish.
I'm like a poster child. Like if there's the limiting belief of you need credentials, it is there. Like, I have every degree. I have multiple endorsements to teach things I don't even want to teach.
Yeah.
I mean, somebody told me it was a good idea, so I'll go do that.
Amazing.
Yeah. I was just talking to my bestie about this. She's in higher ed and is now back working in the public school arena in the administration. She's like, I went and looked at getting an EDD, you know, that's the doctorate in education. She's like, it was going to cost somewhere around $90,000. She did an info session with Berkeley. I said, what are you going to do with that? She's like, I don't know, but I need it. And she's not going to do it because it's good. But I'm like, for 20 years left in your career. But that's totally it. And she's like, well, I think if I'm going to stay here, I need this administration thing. If I need to do this, I have to do that. And it's like, but you have 25 years of experience. Some in the classroom, some not. Like, what's the value in all that? You know? And
I actually was just coaching someone.
It's a business.
I was just coaching someone here, and they're like, you know, I'm gonna go get a 4-year. They don't quite have a 4-year degree yet, so they're gonna go get a 4-year degree in teaching. And I was like, oh, you want to be a teacher? No. So are you getting? Okay, help me understand. Is your job paying you to be able to get a 4-year degree, and you have to do it in this? No. So you're gonna pay to go get a degree in a thing that you don't want to do? I'm like. Mm-hmm. Let's rework the brain a little bit. Tell me how that makes sense.
Because there's value on these 3 letters behind your name. Because we have placed so much value on education. I'm not even sure we place value on education. Because if we did, we wouldn't have scarcity in the elementary schools or in all public schools. So it's not really that we place value on it. We place value on spending money as another barrier of entry to do what you want to do and what you inherently know you'd be good at.
Honestly,
things.
Sorry, go ahead, Robbie.
Collecting things, right?
Yeah.
I'm the collector. I got my teaching license, like my 4-year degree in teaching. I got my master's. Then I went and got a math endorsement, a science endorsement, a reading specialist endorsement. Then I got my doctorate, my admin license. So there I'm sitting and I'm like, you know what? Coaching. So then she goes and gets her coaching credential and is like, well, working genius. Yes, if I get working genius, that will help me. Now, business, should I go back to business school? Because I'm starting business. No, project management. That's what I need, project management. Because just like that scarcity mindset, we want more, more, more. If we only had more, it would be better. Yeah. Same thing, right? If I only had more, then, and so again.
And the validation. It's a validating tool because you're like, of course I belong in this room. Look at my laundry list of things behind my name, right? Yeah. So there really is the ultimate kind of, I think we could probably link limiting beliefs with imposter syndrome, which is I think what mostly, particularly, although I believe men have this, I think we don't give men as much of a break as sometimes we need to, because I think that they also have it. However, I think we in women, we're drowning in it, right? Just this level of, do we even belong here? And so I think it goes 2 ways. It either goes, I'm going in a shell and I'm not going to do anything at all because I can't, or you turn into Robbie and you just get a degree in everything and get certified in everything to be like, I'm proving to you that I'm valuable and that I belong here.
Yeah.
First of all, I heard somebody reframe the imposter syndrome. A guy I follow on LinkedIn, John Amici, so shout out to him because I really love his stuff. But he reframed it to imposter phenomenon, which I really, really like, and not calling it a syndrome. It is a phenomenon in how we think. It is not something wrong with us. And we do know that the imposter phenomenon is a lot of it's not just, I guess it's all underrepresented. There's a better way to say that. So it's not just women, but minorities certainly have a higher prevalence of this as well because they don't see themselves in certain jobs.
That's right.
But I do have a question for you, Robbie. Like, so we know this is great self-awareness, right? We're all very self-aware. Self-awareness, the key to what we do and leadership and all the things. But what do you do with this now? Like, what are you going to do? Are you going to go get a PMP? Are you going to go, like, put a pimp behind your name? Are you going to get an MBA?
Luckily, my husband keeps me in check when I've been at home working all day, looking up things. And I'm like, hey, I have an idea. I think I'm going to. And he's like, but why? Tell me how that's going to fit into your
Say more. Tell me more.
And so then I'll go back to that quote of it's a form of procrastination. And for me to see it now as a form of procrastination. Now, am I surrounded by piles of books that if I, just spent all the time reading them, I would be an expert in many things? Is to keep it in check, right? It's a limiting belief that the more credentials that I have, that the more worthy I'll be at the table, is that I'm going to jump in and do the work. And that when I have those times that it creeps in, I'm going to say, great, what are you doing for your business? And as I get my business, I kind of put it out of giving myself a goal. And then once I've reached that goal, then if I still want to go and do the project management, then I'll do it on top of that. But I'm going to stop using it as that reason why I can't fully
dive in.
Yeah.
I think goal setting is probably the best way to try and overcome it. As long as your
goals
as long as your goals have boundaries to them as well a bit, right? So that they're not, it's not, I'm going to read 55 books.
Yeah.
And I think there is something too, and I would love to hear your perspective on it around this validation, all the whys of why we continue to struggle. I mean, a person like you who is so accomplished, what do you think is driving that, continued I just have to do this little bit more. I just have to do this little bit more.
Well, I think we're such a goal-driven society, reach your next goal, buy the house, buy the car, right? This mindset of more. And I think that I've changed my thinking a little bit around it. Instead of goals is what's my vision? What's the life that I want to live? And less goal oriented. And it was actually interesting as I'm doing some work for some other stuff. I was reading back when I was in my coaching program, and one of the first things that we did on day one was in 1 year, what's your vision? What do you want to be experiencing? And so I read it, and it's it's exactly where I'm at right now, with a little bit of tweaks here and there, because I've definitely been a bit of a collector of part-time jobs as well, focusing less on the goal of what do I want to attain versus this vision of what do I want to live. What are the things that I want to experience in my day versus this what's the next title or what's the next outcome that I want. Check boxes, and so going more for that vision and getting even my clients to say, what's your vision? What is it that you're wanting to experience? Because when it's goal-based, it's very much more I did that. Now it's on to that next thing.
Well, in that kind of mentality, then there always is that next thing. How do I want to feel? What do I want my life to look like? What do I want to experience? I love that. And that's one of the tools too that we use in helping people determine what to say no to. No, thank you. It's not for me. How is that thing fitting into the life that you're trying to create? When you think about the life and how you want to feel and what you want to experience, how is that thing actually supporting that? Is it? Then
right.
No, then let it go.
Yeah.
But it's a struggle. I mean, it's so embedded in our culture, and we keep going back to this more and more and more. And just the flip side of that is the scarcity, because it's never enough. It's just never going to be enough. It's something that I struggle with for sure. I've got lots of gremlins on the finances, and it's never enough, and there's no logic around it, right? There's no just look at the numbers. No, that's I've done that. That's not a thing. So, we all have our work to do, and it's ongoing. But if you don't tackle that work, it shows up everywhere.
Yeah.
Then I become a collector of part-time jobs. Then I'm going to get my certification in water aerobics again. So I will have more, because it is part of the life that I'm trying to create. It is. I was happy when I did that. That is how I connect with people. I want more water aerobics and cycling in my life. So I will go renew those certifications, because that's part of what I want my day and my week to look like.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, can I go teach water aerobics? You betcha. But is somebody going to hire me to work at their pool without that? They're not.
No. Yeah.
So, so that is a legit thing.
Yeah.
There are some things, again, is it made up in our society? Maybe,
But I even think, like, even in just using Robbie as an example, I actually, in education, if you want to be a principal, what are all the things that you have to do today to be a principal?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of those steps that I did, I had to do to be a principal.
Exactly. So it's not as though, I mean, we talk about value and our validation and all the things. There is a little bit of that, but we do exist in a society that continues to, again, I think we started the conversation with this, right? It's this like, the culture is fostering this as well.
Yeah.
That's how come we're in the middle of it. We can't figure out how to get out.
And I think to like tie it back to this idea of leadership and school leadership is this idea of like, it's a little bit of a heads down mentality to be like, what's next? We do these goals, right? School improvement goals. What are our goals this year? We work really hard this year and then we go the next. And it's like, well, I want to do this, but it's not enough, versus this like heads up mentality. Where are we headed? What's the vision? What are we trying to create? And then, okay, this is what we create. This is what we need. What do we take off our plate? What do we put on our plate? Because to your point, Rachel, was like, okay, you do need certain certifications. You do need certain things. But there's things that can come off your plate at the same time, that it's not then competing. It's more of like, again, setting the course and then deciding what you need in order to get there, versus I'm going to look down and get that next goal and then get that, and I need. It's more of this like, this is where we're going to go.
I was going to say, Rachel, because you talk about this a lot, it's the permission to say no. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I know I'm guilty of this. I don't feel good about saying no at all. I feel terrible when I have to say no to something or somebody. And then it all crashes and burns because you just don't have the ability to balance all the balls. Yeah. And then nothing ever feels
And you didn't want to do it either.
I didn't want to do it anyway. And I didn't feel good about the process. And now I feel worse because it's failed. And, you just end up in this crazy cycle.
When you were talking about heads down, Robbie, where my head went to was how in that time we're not really present, and we're definitely moving away from a goal. We know that goals are actually not good for us, right? Mm-hmm. Because it's just perpetuating for us in this society. Maybe the pendulum again needs to swing a little bit so we relinquish some of that like pretend control that we think we have. But anyway, this like looking, the heads down, just do the thing. Where are we then in being appreciative of where we are, being in the present, knowing what's going on, having those like, what do I want to experience today? Not what do I want to do today? Mm-hmm. How do I want to feel today? What do I want to experience? Whether it is a thing or a feeling or just a gratitude for the sun came out, Mm-hmm. But it's like, how many of us go, oh, I didn't do anything today. I was lazy and I watched TV. Mm-hmm. I wasted the day or something, like maybe that's what we needed, and who cares? But
I mean, I think, gosh, I feel like I'm hitting all the like buttons you're not supposed to talk about. But like, I grew up religious, mm-hmm. and every weekend it was idle hands are the devil's playground. Like, get up and clean, do laundry, do the thing. It wouldn't matter that all week long. School and homework and the thing and the stuff. It really, we really have fostered an environment that says you don't even deserve to rest at any point because you're lazy. It's Rachel and I, Robbie, talk about this a lot. We're like, don't come to us if you're interested in this hustle mentality. Mm-hmm. It's like, no one's on the hustle. No one needs to be on the grind, and no one needs to hustle, and no one needs to like, it's cool. Sit down and binge Netflix. You're going to be all right.
Yeah, I call it the busy badge. Like, look at me, how busy I am.
Yep, totally. I know.
Yeah,
wear it like a badge of honor.
We talk about that in corporate America, that everyone's so excited when their calendars are full, even though they're like, oh, my calendar. My calendar. But it's like this badge of honor that there's no time.
I'm so important.
Yeah.
I'm so important that my calendar's full, everybody. So it's super ego boosting. I mean, hey, I've fallen into that. I know that trap really well. But I actually did challenge myself when I was chief of staff, my last like full-time job, because I knew people were looking at me, and I knew that I was representing the culture. And so when I run into folks and it's like, how are you? Everybody's immediate response is, I'm so busy, so busy, that I challenged myself after taking the energy project, which I really like. It's really great stuff. But to really challenge myself to not make that the response, you know, and that's why I also like one of the other things that they teach in that, or that I learned from them, was instead of how are you doing, how are you feeling? How are you? Even if you're not comfortable with the how are you feeling, how are you? Because again, how are you doing? It's an action. What are you doing? Mm-hmm. All right, how are you doing? I'm doing everything. Mm-hmm. You know? Or even just to say good. Like again, we're not connecting with people when we're saying I'm good, I'm fine, I'm busy. Like that's not a connection. And these are opportunities for connection. Right. So yeah, the busy, the hustle, you know, it's a lot, and I think that's why we're all sick all the time. Mm-hmm. You know, haven't done enough. Not making it happen. What more should I be doing? The should.
Well, because again, it feels different and your brain takes it different. If I'm sitting here, well, I should go and finish this project and I should go do laundry and I should go take a walk. It's today I want to take a walk. If I want something, wow, I'm much more likely to go do it than when I should. Right. Totally. And then when we're shooting on other people, we're also giving a lot of judgment to what they're doing, and judgment, I mean, that's a whole nother podcast.
I'm like, yeah. Oh, man, actually, that should be a topic for us at some point. Because
we want that to be.
I want that to be a topic. That's
this, you know, and I've been talking a lot about this in the last few days, ironically, about the words that we use. And this word should, it could just be something we're used to saying. I should do this, I should do that. And I was reflecting for myself. I went out for a walk with my husband and I said, I'm worried about blah, blah, blah. And then I was like, wait a second. I'm not worried about it. I'm thinking about it. I'm noodling on it. I'm, you know, mulling it over, processing it, whatever. But when I use the word worry, it becomes, again, this old story that Rachel's a worrywart. She worries about everything. Worry, worry, worry. And it affects my body because now I'm worried and my stomach hurts, you know. And then the person receiving that, my husband's like, well, why are you worried? What do we have to be worried about? So, you know, so he's responding to me differently. Unless I just say what I actually meant, be impeccable with my word, thank you for agreements. I'm thinking about this. I'm pondering blah, blah, blah. You know, I'm processing this out loud. Do you mind? You know, it's a totally different vibe, but I think we're so used to just not thinking about what we're saying, or it just becomes pattern and habit. And we really do need, I for sure need to be more thoughtful about the words that I use. I do have anxiety that is diagnosed, you know, since I'm 14 years old and confirmed by multiple therapists over the years. And yet, I'm not always anxious.
Right.
There are times when that anxiety is heightened, and there are times when I'm thinking about something and the word I use does not need to be I'm anxious about this, or I'm struggling with my anxiety right now. Like that's not the catch-all for every emotion or inflection point that I have, you know. Certainly there are times, not every...
Words matter, and your brain believes what you tell it.
Exactly.
And that's, I love Brene Brown's Atlas of the Heart, because as much as that book is like, okay, it's all your emotions, it gave words that I'm like, envious versus jealous, right? Yeah. Like some of those just nuanced ones that we use over and over, but it's like, your words matter. And like naming your emotions is like, we're teaching kids to do it now. So I'm hoping that we'll see the swing. But there's a lot of adults that just don't even know what they're feeling or how to check in with what they're feeling.
Or I'm good or I'm bad. Yeah. Good, bad. This, you know, one or the other. I do too, like that emotional wheel that really looks at the spectrum of certain things. So, you know, we have resources, we have tools, because we double down on stuff.
But I also think I think there's a level of conditioning around not having emotions.
Yeah.
Right? I think you certainly can see this, particularly in men, is that don't cry and don't feel this and don't do that. And it's like, you wonder, well, if they all exist, like then
we're actually not different.
First of all, we're not different,
Same
and
species.
these emotions exist. So probably some days I'm, it's, in my house it was always like, don't cry or I'll give you something to cry about. And it was like, but I'm crying because there was already something to cry about. Like I was already in that space. And so I think we don't even, the reason we're good or bad is because we don't even give ourselves space to explore that we might, you're never allowed to have a bad day. It's like, today's not a good day. Today you're not going to get a great response from me. Today's a day I shouldn't go to work because when Susie wants to say something to me, I'm going to pop off on Susie. In a way that she ain't going to like. But I'm self-aware. So I know that that's going to happen.
So I'm going to take a day.
But we don't even give space for that, right? It's like, oh, just show up and leave your problems at the door type of like concept.
Well, because I read this leadership book, and maybe there was a podcast too that I listened to that was like, leave all emotion at home. Like if you show emotion at work, then, people around you have to put up with that emotion, and then they're not going to want to come to you for something or give you feedback. And I'm like, are you joking me? So I need to leave my human at home.
All of it. Yeah.
Just bring your AI bot with you. Yeah.
Right. And I was just like, wow, so what is it about that leader that's giving you feedback? And maybe you cry because that feedback was hard to hear. Totally. And that you shouldn't do that because, well, they're not going to want to give you feedback if you cry. And it's like, no, wait.
They need to go sort out why crying makes them uncomfortable.
Who has the bigger issue is the leader that can't give feedback to somebody that
That's
cries.
Right. Yeah. So I used to be a crier. I mean, I am still a crier, but I am one of those people that would cry about not everything. I mean, I wasn't like walking around boo-hoo all the time. But if I got feedback that was particularly rough, I would tear up. Or if it felt like a difficult conversation, which with age and wisdom doesn't feel that way anymore. But I definitely used to cry. And at some point, I reframed that of like, why wouldn't you want an employee that cares so much it seeps out of my eyeballs?
Right.
Like that's how much I care about me and this work and this environment and these people and you giving me this feedback that I want to, do a good job for you, that it comes out of my eyeballs. So how is that a bad thing? Yeah. This leave your emotions at the door, not only does it not work because it's just not possible, obviously I'm very passionate. It's kind of I'm getting emotional and infuriated about it because it's just not reasonable.
I think the funnier part of it is that, Robbie, as you were talking, it became less about how I'm feeling and about how I'm making others feel. So it's like, well, who gets to have feelings then? If their feelings are, why is their feelings more important? They get to come in and be uncomfortable. I just have to, so it's like, sometimes I don't even think people realize what they're saying. Again, we're so disconnected from emotion.
Right. Well, because we've been told not to have emotion, right? Like, push it down. Don't let it bother you. We teach it to kids
stiff upper lip
early on, like, be nice and like, dust it off and walk on versus this like, well, how did it make you feel? Right. Like having the words for it is like, I'm not worried, I'm just processing. I'm trying to figure it out.
That's right.
Yeah. And that's the name it to tame it, right? If we can name our emotions, we need the vocabulary. So we do need the books and the resources because we need the vocabulary to be able to do that.
Yeah. Permission to Feel, Brackett, his work is, he has this like quadrants of like where you might feel and like naming it, and it's connected to Brene Brown's work. I mean, how I found Brackett was Brene Brown. She's like, how do you name these emotions? And but if we name them, again, we can tame them. But like, we're all human, and if we're all human, connection is through emotions.
That's right. Brene Brown, right now it's not coming to me. The first book that I read of hers was The Gifts of Imperfection.
Oh. Yeah.
And I'm like, that, honestly, that book changed my life. I started giving it out to staff, especially to all my female staff. I'm like, you mean my house doesn't have to be clean? Someone could come over and it's okay? It's okay if there's a dish in the sink?
Permission to not shit on yourself.
Yeah, it's okay if my shirt's wrinkled? Yeah. It's like that changed my life, and I think it's all connected to this idea of like we're actually functional, real human beings. We're not a Leave It to Beaver super old reference, television program with like this 2.5 kid nuclear family situation. Like, it's all messy. Our families are messy. We're messy. Sometimes we're not messy. Sometimes we got it all together. It's like we're this range, right? We don't exist in this one kind of space. And I think a lot of the work that I love that she's doing is helping us try to connect back to all of that so that we can actually just be functioning humans.
Yeah.
Happy functioning humans. Present.
Well, and
sometimes happy, sometimes pissed.
Sometimes not.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sometimes
fair
annoyed.
enough.
Yeah.
Well, and releasing that judgment, because it's not good or bad, it's not happy or
That's
sad,
right.
it's not right. Like it's a spectrum of things, and it's not just binary that everything that we do falls into two categories.
Yeah.
And yeah, the iron shirt and the clean house. I mean, limiting beliefs, right? Like, somebody's not going to love us because our house is not clean, and we weren't professional because our shirt was wrinkled.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Oh my God.
And
First full circle.
Yeah, and frankly, everybody's just thinking about themselves anyway.
That's what you
Isn't
said.
that that's like the gym.
That's true.
I'm going to go to the gym after I lose 10 pounds because I'm a little too fat to go to the gym right now.
And people are just in the gym on the treadmill going, whoa, look at that. That person's so skinny. Oh, I'm so fat. If only I could.
Yeah, that's why I work out at home now. But I have the book. I just read the book with a group, and it was great. It happened to be a group of all women, but I don't know that it changed their lives maybe as intensely as it did for you, Andy. But certainly, we all had good dialogue around, and a lot of it was around the shame too. So, but it's all good. We keep going. So, what do you want to experience today?
I want to experience a sense of accomplishment today. I'm writing a leadership training that I'm contracted to write, and I've definitely had a few limiting beliefs of if I could just read a few more books before I write it. Even though I had I call them jam sessions, where fellow writers and I get together and we talk about leadership and what we're seeing, and that's the idea of the heads down versus heads up was a big thing that we talked about. As I was in 3 different schools yesterday, and it was very heads down, like, these people should be doing this and should be doing that, and people want me to do this and that, and it's like, no, let's heads up, where are we going? Because when we don't know where we're going, we're getting stuck in all of the like reactive mode. So I'm gonna go and sense of accomplishment, get my outline done today. It's Friday.
It's Friday. Well, super fun to chat with you, as always. I mean, I enjoy our chats always. But thanks for joining us here, and good stuff. Keep up the good work, man. Changing the schools, changing people's lives. So thank you for all that you do, and we hope you'll come back and chat with us another time.
Yeah. Can we actually just put it out there now to talk judgment?
Yeah.
Because I think that's such I think between what we do ourselves, even as being people who are aware and knowing, and then feeling really guilty about it, and then just being judged.
You should do better.
Yeah. I can't believe I'm judging people.
You should know better.
So I think that'd be such a great topic, and one that I think would resonate with folks.
Let's do it.
All right.
All right. Well, then until next time.
All right. Sounds good.
Enjoy.
Pleasure
Take
meeting
good
you,
care.
Robbie. Have a
Yeah,
great
great to
weekend.
meet you.
See you soon, Rach.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.